Tonight, Amazon cancels plans to build headquarters in New York City. That means 25,000 jobs are going to be going elsewhere. We've got the latest, including reaction from a whole lot of angry people. Then, just when you thought the Russia probe couldn't get any crazier, it gets crazier. A former federal prosecutor will weigh in on the latest developments that, trust me, will make your head spin. Also, Congressman Peter King of New York, he joins us to talk about the news on the shutdown, and trust me, tonight, there's lots of it. Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Now, we're going to spend the first part of the show taking a look at that stunning move by Amazon to nix its planned headquarters from the Big Apple. So you saw from my tease, a lot of stuff happened today, and it would take a seismic regional development to knock stories, including allegations of wearing a wire on the president and 11th hour moves to avoid another government shutdown to kick him out of the lead. Well, a stunningly idiotic, self-inflicted tantrum from local officials in New York managed to do just that. Somehow, some way, the rocket scientists in the state Senate contorted the facts about Amazon's impending arrival, and they turned, get this, a guarantee of 25,000 new jobs from construction to software engineering and everything in between, jobs that averaged 150 grand a year. They managed to turn that into a phony class warfare screed. Then Amazon released their statement this afternoon saying, in effect, they don't need this headache anymore, and an old and a new headline came to mind to yours truly. Let me take you back to the 1970s when New York City was teetering on the verge of bankruptcy, and they went hat in hand to Washington asking for a bailout. Well, then President Ford said in effect, "You're on your own." The Daily News famously captured the moment with the headline, "Ford City dropped dead." Well, tomorrow's headline ought to say something like, "New York City to Amazon dropped dead." It also ought to serve as a reminder that the economic good times of today, they never and will not last forever. Every city, and that includes New York, I hate to remind you, has to constantly reinvent itself. Amazon would have immensely helped expand our tech sector footprint and diversify the city. Now, instead, the mental midget screaming extortion because of the $3 billion in incentives, what they neglect to mention is Bezos isn't getting kited a fat check here. Amazon, they would have had to met obligations here, and those incentives, they would have been in the form of tax breaks spread out over many years. But none of that matters now. To have a deal that a progressive governor, a progressive mayor, Republican lawmakers, and the business community rally behind, a deal that 70% of New Yorkers backed, a deal that New York beat out hundreds of other cities for that to vanish tonight because a vocal minority believed in making the perfect the enemy of the good, it is infuriating. Now, I don't agree with New York Congressman Peter King on a lot of issues, but the lawmaker, whose district, by the way, is next to Long Island City, I'll say this: he's always been a straight shooter, and he's always put his constituents first, even when that meant going after Republican administrations and fellow Republicans. Well, tonight, I'll tell you right now, I could not agree with him anymore when he points the finger at out-of-touch Democrats who hurt the people they are supposed to represent.
The ones who are going to lose out are the workers, the bodega owners, the pizza shop owners, the people who would have gotten good paying jobs at Amazon, what that would have done to the economy, what that would have done as far as bringing more jobs in, even beyond those 25,000 from Amazon. An absolute disgrace. This is one time I fully agree with Bill de Blasio and Andrew Cuomo. People are not going to have jobs. People are not going to have the benefits they need because of this selfish left-wing progressive politics. Absolute disgrace.
He's 100% right. You got more of my conversation with the congressman coming up. There were political cowards tonight, and I'll name them. There were some political folks who I think will look back and say they were in the right. We'll identify them as well. But it seems a lot of people have very short memories of what the city was like in the 70s and where we are now, and how easily we could go back to that time. Decisions like we saw today, myopic, short-sighted, small-minded decisions, I think we will regret, and I think we send a message to a lot of other anchor possible tenants who could come to New York that we don't want their business. That's bad business. Okay, we're going to get a lot of reaction right now. Let's first start out in Long Island City, ground zero, if you will, for this conversation. We got reaction from people and business owners, and it was mixed. Take a listen.
My complete revulsion that our politicians out here having a victory speech about destroying our community and denying jobs to Queens.
When I heard that Amazon was coming, when they were considering our borough, I was overjoyed. I thought it was one of the best things that happened in my life in New York City.
I think all of our rents would have increased substantially, and we moved here because it was slightly cheaper than being in Manhattan.
Now, the politicians who successfully lured Amazon to the city, as you'd imagine, many are livid. Dominic Carter, he is live at City Hall with the latest. Dom, I did not see today coming. I thought maybe they'd be a lot more back and forth, a lot of posturing, but Amazon said, you know what, I don't need this in my life, and they walked away.
Richard, at the end of the day, that is the bottom line. All those jobs that you just talked about, poof. They're up in the air as it relates to New York. Most places would kill for that type of opportunity. But when it comes to politics in New York, it's a different story. And from day one of this deal, it has been all about controversy. It was a polarizing deal from the day it was announced with much fanfare in November.
I think it's exciting for Amazon. I know it's exciting for the state of New York.
The workers united will never be defeated.
In a stunning development, Amazon announced on its website that it would not go forward with the Long Island City headquarters, stating in part, while polls show that 70% of New Yorkers support our plans and investment, a number of state and local politicians have made it clear that they oppose our presence and will not work with us to build the type of relationships that are required to go forward. Amazon was promising to bring between 25,000 and 40,000 jobs to the city in exchange for up to $3 billion in tax breaks from the state and city governments. In a statement, Governor Cuomo lashed out at opponents of the deal, saying, quote, a small group of politicians put their own narrow political interests above their community, which poll after poll showed overwhelmingly supported bringing Amazon to Long Island City. The New York State Senate has done tremendous damage. They should be held accountable for this lost economic opportunity. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio responded, you have to be tough to make it in New York City. We gave Amazon the opportunity to be a good neighbor and do business in the greatest city in the world. Instead of working with the community, Amazon threw away that opportunity. Longtime critic of Amazon's New York plans, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, began raising concerns before she even took office. She tweeted, anything is possible. Today was the day a group of dedicated, everyday New Yorkers and their neighbors defeated Amazon's corporate greed, its workers' exploitation, and the power of the richest man in the world. The headquarters would have been housed in the district of Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney. She stated the deal could have been improved. There were legitimate concerns raised and aspects that I wanted changed. I was ready to work for those changes, but now we won't have a chance to do that, and we are out of 25,000 new jobs and hundreds of millions of dollars in new investments. Amazon made it clear opposition was too much of an obstacle for the Queens project to continue.
Amazon's job is to make money. My job is to make sure that the people in this community are not hurt.
We are proud that we fought for our values. Our values in New York City are to defend working men and women.
And so, Richard, let the game now begin of the political fallout. Who's going to be blamed for all of this? Reporting live from City Hall in New York City, I'm Dominic Carter. Richard, let's go back to you in the studio.
Well, you know what, Tom? I think if you're Senator Gianaris right now or you're Congresswoman Cortez, This is great news. You get to play, you know, that you were David and you slew Goliath. But to me, I saw the Congresswoman's quote that you read, greed on the part of Amazon. Does she expect that Amazon is a nonprofit, that people are coming to start business? I think she needs to walk into Manhattan and understand that capitalism, we're a capitalist nation. We're a free market country. This is not socialist. I won't even go down this road tonight. But Dominic, can you just help me remind people what New York City was like, not in the 1870s, but in the 1970s and early 80s? This idea that the good times are always going to keep on rolling and we can give the middle finger to anybody who wants to come to the city to set up shop. It is so frustratingly short-sighted, and it totally lacks any sense of history.
Richard, I'm with you on this one, and I will give a little perspective as it relates to the finances of New York City. Keep in mind Michael Bloomberg, who was the billionaire mayor, right? Well, you mentioned the fiscal crisis of the 70s, and New York dropped dead, and the fiscal crisis of the 80s. Well, guess what? It was Bloomberg that started, and he took a lot of heat for this. He started a rainy day fund that put away billions because New York's budget has always been on shaky grounds. New York's budget, Richard, has been filled with one-shot revenue, and that's a no-no in the world of budgets because it's a one-time revenue, as you know, that's not going to come back. So the following year, you still have the same budget gap, but you don't have that revenue, that source, that stream of income. I look at this, Richard, from the perspective, you know my upbringing. I look at it from the perspective of the residents of Long Island City in terms of the people that live in the housing project there. And employment is employment. Opportunity is opportunity. And that's why, Richard, tonight, Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey, he issued a statement as well. And what did his statement say? He was urging Amazon to reconsider their decision and come to Newark, New Jersey. So that's the situation of where we stand in as of right now, Richard.
And you know what? I got to tell you, I expected what we heard from the Gennaroses of the world and the Cortezes, but for Bill de Blasio to proudly sit at the table with the governor, put aside their differences, and welcome Amazon with open arms, knowing completely what the terms of the deal were, and for him to turn around today and say, oh, Amazon doesn't have the guts to fight it out in New York. What a phony. Oh, my God. To say in one hand that you can't wait to have him, be part of the community, and then when he sees how things went south after the memo, he, without a press conference, puts out a release here saying, I never wanted him in the first place. You know what? It's just political cowardice. I don't think there's any other way to put it.
Well, Richard, I surmise it this way. Notice I'm reading a bunch of statements tonight, and you're not seeing many officials appear on camera because no one wants to hold that political hot potato of, I let 25,000 jobs just walk out of the state of New York because of politics.
There will be fallout, Dominic. Thank you, as always. Good report here. When we come back, wiretaps, double agents, removing a president from office. It sounds like the plot of a bad Hollywood movie, but this is real life and those very real discussions that happened in the Justice Department. A former federal prosecutor joins us to weigh in on the incredible revelations.